Hare Krishna. My name is Rasaraj Kṛṣṇa, disciple of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. My name is Sura. I am also a disciple of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta. I am 31 years old and also brought up at the Bhaktivedanta Manor.
So I started my Krishna consciousness seriously in 2019. In December, I went to His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Guru Maharaj's retreat in Vrindavan, Mayapur, and Jagannath Puri. And at that time, I quit my job, left my studies, left my material responsibilities, and I told His Holiness at that time I also didn't have any interest in these things. And from that time, seeing him at the retreat, I was inspired by the brahmacharis of Ujjain. I saw these brahmacharis when I was quite young, growing up, and my mother would take me to a Jain temple. But seeing them again in 2019, young, enthusiastic, inspiring boys, all dancing and jumping, and very loving and kind and considerate, I thought, wow, this is something I need in my life. So that's when I was inspired to start my journey in Krishna consciousness. And then Bhaktivedanta Guru Maharaj, he said also, it's that he was happy when I said I'm not interested in studies or relationships, getting married, or into work life. He said, very good. He said, come and serve me in Florida. That's where it really began.
So my Krishna conscious journey started since I was born, actually. I used to come to the manor with my parents, but I never really took it seriously. I used to come to the manor and just run around in the fields, play football on a Sunday, have a bit of prasad, and then just go home. Then when I was 15, my mother took me to Malaga on a retreat of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Maharaj's, and she sold it to me in a way that was quite enticing. She said that you don't have to go to any classes or lectures, you can just be on the beach and you can just relax. You don't have to attend anything. Just go there, have a holiday. So that's what I did. And then one evening I was taking prasadam with my mother, and I see Maharaj comes and he walks up to us, and he said that, oh, I would like to speak to you. So I said, okay. I didn't know what to expect. I had no plans of speaking to him also. So he said, this is my room number. At that time, I think it was room number 512, if I'm not mistaken. So he said, after you finish your prasadam, come to my room. I'd like to speak to you. So I went to his room after I finished prasad, and we ended up speaking for 2.5 hours. And I was just asking him questions like, don't you want to get a job? Why do you do what you do? What is the point of all of this? Like just basic questions. And he put up with me for that amount of time. But at the end of the conversation, he said that he wrote down on a piece of paper his phone number and his email address. And he said that please keep in touch with me every month. Either call me or email me. So I was doing that up until September, so this was July. Then September time was his Vyaspuja time. And I thought instead of emailing him, I'll call him. So I called him on his mobile and he didn't pick up. But after 10 minutes, the house phone started ringing and he had called back. So when I answered the phone and I realized that it was Maharaj on the phone, I was ecstatic actually. And the first thing I said was, actually Maharaj, I was just calling to say happy birthday. I know you're celebrating with your friends, so you must be busy, but that's all I wanted to say. And then he asked me, he said, is there anything else that you'd like to say? And at that point, actually, prior to meeting him in Malaga, I was smoking a lot of weed and like doing a lot of drugs. So in that meeting, he made me promise, or I promised him rather, that I'd stop. I'd stop smoking, I'd stop drinking. And I had started chanting 16 rounds from that day. So when he had called back and asked me, is there anything else? I said to him that yes, actually, I notice at school, like, people are of different faiths to me. And my area was predominantly Muslim. So I was saying that, like all the Bengalis at school, because I'm also Bengali, they're all practicing Islam. And I'm the only Hindu Bengali. So what's going on, Like, surely I've got the wrong end of the stick. How do I keep feeling enthused with my practice? And he just said that when you feel like that, open the Bhagavad Gita to a random page, and whatever verse it falls on, that will be your instruction. So I started to do that. And then in that same conversation, he said, don't worry, I've already spoken with your mother. At the beginning of the following year, you'll come and you'll start traveling with me. And that's how it unfolded, my traveling with Bhakti Maharaj.
As Sura Prabhu, his Krishna consciousness started in childhood. My Krishna consciousness also started in childhood. We actually saw each other in the manor a couple of times. That's why we know each other, or we have a good relationship now also. He's like my older brother, spiritually and materially. So yeah, my mother came to Bhaktivedanta Manor when she was 7, and so when I was a child, she also brought me up reading and chanting and coming to the manor every Sunday. I think I went to Krishna Club also here, and the first time I met His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami Guru Maharaj was when I was 4 in the temple room, and I was introduced. One of my mother's friends, Gary, he brought me by the hand and took me to His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami Guru Maharaj and said, this is Yadurani's son. And then Guru Maharaj, I just remember a very, very warm feeling Guru Maharaj gave me. It was a warm feeling. I don't remember what it was, but it was very warm. And then growing up, I used to go to retreats. The first retreat His Holiness started was in Switzerland. So then every year there was a different place, like Malaga and South Africa was one also. Several times went to Malaga. So I used to go to these retreats, but I also didn't care so much about going to lectures, and I wanted to go swimming and hanging out with the friends. And also His Holiness realized this, and at one point they got in Malaga in Spain. His Holiness was chanting at 2 a.m. but I was coming back from the beach with my friends at 2 a.m. also. We were also not in the best state of mind, and he also noticed that. And the next morning, he called us up into his room, and he said, if you want to come to these retreats, you have to take it seriously. You have to attend the classes. He didn't say what he saw that last night, how we were walking and talking and falling, but he just mentioned how we should become more serious if we want to stay on the retreats. And then from that moment onwards, I felt like I'm just not going to come back here. That was my attitude. Without my friends, or without having the opportunity to be with my friends and swim with my friends and enjoy with my friends, I wouldn't like to go to the lectures. So then from that point, I was getting a bit more interested in, or at least free to do material activities. But at a certain point, I came to realize, after having spent time in the material world and experiencing a lot, I decided to go to the next retreat, which was in Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri in 2018, December. And at that time I saw His Holiness again after a long time. And I had a lot of questions on my mind, as not hearing any classes, I don't have so much knowledge and so many realizations. But hearing the first class in Vrindavan, opened up the whole kind of spectrum of reality, and I really was interested. And we were dancing, and then I saw these brahmacharis from a Jain, where when I was a kid, I also saw them in a Jain. And the same brahmacharis there, they're all youthful and inspiring and exciting, and they're dancing, and they're always happy, and they're so knowledgeable, and they're very loving and caring. You can't be not attracted to them. And I was attracted to them, and then I also spent some time with them. I also then spent some time with His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami Guru Maharaj at that same retreat. And I told His Holiness, I told Guru Maharaj that I'm not interested in marriage, education, or working. And his face lit up, and he said, "Very good, Raghav." He said, "Very good." And I was thinking, oh, I've done something good in my life for once. And then he said, we were talking for some time, me and my mother and my sister were there. So we had a window of opportunity to talk to him, maybe 10-15 minutes. And my mother asked, can my son be of service to you? And His Holiness said, yeah, actually, he can come to Florida. He can come to D-Land and spend time with me there. So then I worked for a few months, and then the following year, 2019, April, I shifted to D-Land and started serving His Holiness when I was there. The second question is how we got the opportunity to become the personal servant, in personal service of His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami Guru Maharaj. During my time in D-Land, from April 2019 onwards, I was involved in many various services. D-Land is a dynamic project established in 2017, and anyone who's been there knows that there's hundreds of things to do and many hundreds of things to plan, strategize, and get involved in, get your hands dirty, be with the cows, be with the soil, the plants, be with the deities, be in the cooking, be in the serving, be in the food truck. So many initiatives His Holiness had in mind. And so I got started in construction. After a couple of weeks, there was some renovation to be done. And I was serving under His Holiness Bhakti Premonitions Maharaj and His Grace Dulal Charan Prabhu. And I was every day, 15 hours every day, just serving. Not that long, but it felt like that, like the whole day. From Mangalarti to 6 p.m. After breakfast, just continuing 7 p.m., 8 p.m., sometimes 9 p.m., 10 p.m., just serving. And I was doing that for around 2.5 months. And there was other projects that Guru Maharaj was doing in different locations in Florida. And I was also helping in those places. And he didn't, the personal servant that was with him at that time was also his main photographer. His name was Jagannath Charan Prabhu. And after some time, the devotees realized that Guru Maharaj needs some extra help in his house. So I started serving there as an emergency. I was brought to his house under the guidance of His Holiness Bhakti Premonitions Maharaj, and I started doing ironing and cleaning, and it was an emergency because his clothes were not being, the laundry was not getting done, and there was different services to do, and one person can't manage that. And so by Krishna's arrangement, due to the lack of devotees having to be in the base in Guru Maharaj's location, I got the opportunity to serve Guru Maharaj hands-on. He taught me how to serve him also as well. And then further on, which kind of sparked it to ignite into a more intense service, is that His Holiness Bhakti Premonitions Maharaj and His Grace Dulal Charan Prabhu and His Grace Baladev Prabhu, one time they came to Guru Maharaj's room, and Guru Maharaj asked them, what is Raghav doing? How is his service? How is his progress? And I was doing construction at that time, and they apparently gave a nice report of my service. They said he's enthusiastic and whatnot. And Guru Maharaj was pleased. And that same time, he called me from the renovation place, the house of where we were doing construction. And I thought I maybe did something wrong. And I came into Guru Maharaj's room, and I came in front of him and paid my respects to him also. Just prior to this, just a day before, funnily enough, we were in a Ishtagoshti where he called everyone, and at the end of the Ishtagoshti, he said that soon I'll be traveling. And I was hoping to take Raghav, my name before. He said, I hope to take Raghav with me traveling, but he wants to do Bhakti Shastri instead, because I wanted to do Bhakti Shastri, I wanted to learn. So I don't know what to do now. And I was sitting at the back of the Ishtagoshni, I was thinking, what have I done? I want to do Bhakti Shastri, what is the point? Forget Bhakti Shastri immediately. I was feeling very embarrassed in the Ishtagoshni. I was thinking, what an insignificant desire compared to traveling with His Holiness Bhakti Swami Guru Maharaj. And then the next day, he basically invited me into his room and said, would you like to travel with me? And I didn't know what to say first, and I was just I was getting emotional. I said yes, and I started crying, and Guru Maharaj started laughing, and his shoulders started shaking. He said, "Very good, Raga." And that time I was very, very happy. And then from that time onwards, I was traveling with Guru Maharaj to India first. We went to Bangladesh. So that's how I got the opportunity to become in his personal service.
So after the phone call and His Holiness Bhakti Maharaj saying that the following year you'll be coming to spend some time with me, so I went to India the following year in January, and I landed in Delhi. I spent a night there, and then the following day I went to Ujjain. And actually Maharaj at that time, he told me to come for a specific date because he'd be in Ujjain at that time. But it so happened that he had some urgent last minute meetings, so he couldn't come. So I was just hanging around in Ujjain for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. It was a long time before he had come actually. And every day I kept asking, back then Ganga Narayan Prabhu, who's now Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, I kept asking him, like, is he going to turn up? Like, is he coming? What am I doing here? And I was getting a bit frustrated, as you can imagine. 16 years old, I don't have any service, no activities. I can't relate to any of the devotees there because it's India. At that time, my Bengali was not so good, so I had problems with communication, and I wasn't so into the whole like waking up for Mangalarti, and it was my first time being exposed to an environment like this. So, and every day Bhakti Maharaj, he kept telling me, yes, he's coming, he's had last minute meetings and this and that, and he's just been held up. So I just kept quiet as staying. And then the day that he arrived, every time that he used to arrive in Ujjain, it was like the biggest festival. There'd be flowers from the entrance gates of the temple all the way till the deities, and then there'll be like queues, like crowds of devotees. And I was witnessing this, and I saw the crowd, so I stood at the back on the day that he arrived. And he came in, everyone's chucking flowers at him, garlands are going over him, and he's walking to the temple room. Then he takes darshan of the deities. At that time there was not 5 altars, there was only 3. And Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra were in the food for life. in a different building. So he took darshan, and then after darshan he stood on one of the side exits of the temple room, and he turned around and he looked at all the devotees, and I remember hearing him saying that, "Oh, is Saurav not here? He's been expecting me for so long, is he not here?" And I was standing at the back of the temple room, and from the back I was saying, "Yes, I'm here," waving my hand, and the crowd, it just split in half, and Maharaj was standing here and I was standing on the other side. And then he said, "Why are you standing so far away? Please come, you're my guest." So I walked up to him. I didn't pay obeisances at that time because I didn't know the etiquette actually. And then he put his arm around me and he said, "Sorry I took so long. Should we take prasadam together? Are you feeling hungry?" And I said, "Okay, sure, yeah, we can take prasad together." So we walked up the stairs, and when you go from the temple building to the Brahmachari ashram, Maharaj's quarters are on the 3rd floor of the ashram. There's a bridge that connects the two buildings. So on that bridge, all the garlands that the devotees have given him whilst he's been coming in, he stands on the bridge and he chucks them at the devotees. So he was chucking them at the devotees, and I was standing there watching it all happen. And then we got the lift, went to his room. And as we were taking prasad together, he again apologized. He said, "Sorry I took so long to come. How would you feel about traveling with me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, that sounds good." And at that time, actually, I said, like I've been so bored in here. I can't talk to anyone. They don't understand English so well. I can't speak Bengali so well. And again, he started to giggle. And he said, "It's okay. You can just stay with me." And that's how I started traveling with His Holiness Bhakti Charan Maharaj. Yeah. Since Maharaj's departure, the moments I remember the most are the chastisements that I received from Maharaj. And I can share a few also. In 2011 of July, we were traveling in America, and we had started in June actually, traveling in America, and in July was the end of the tour. And a week prior to my initiation, I had a lot of boils on my head. And there was two devotees traveling with us, Sweta Manjari Mataji and Sudama Prabhu from California. And they were trying to, Mataji was good with like nursing, medicine. So she was trying to help me recover from the boils. They were all over my head. And this was in North Carolina. So from North Carolina, we were going to New Jersey, and that's where I was going to get initiated. But so what happened was she was applying like haldi and things to my head and then bandaging it up. So one evening, I think 2 days prior to going to New Jersey, I went with all these bandages on my head to Maharaj. And as soon as he saw me, he started laughing. He started giggling. And he's like, "What's going on with your head? What's happened?" And I was like, "Oh, Maharaj, I got all these boils. I don't know how. It's like random. I've never had this problem before." And he's like, "Okay, just take rest." Then later on that evening, he called me to his room. And he said, "Sorry, I laughed at you. Let me have a look at your head." So he took off the bandages, then he looked at my head. Then he told Sweta Manjari Mataji to get the haldi and whatever other medication she was applying. And he started to apply it on my head For about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, he was sitting on a chair like I am, and I was sitting on the floor facing him with my head down like this, and he was just applying very softly. And for a week I'd been suffering, and it wasn't going down, it wasn't going away. But the next morning I woke up and I had no boils on my head. It was practically cleared. The pus had stopped coming out, the blood had stopped, it was drying up. I felt healthy again. And for me it felt like that incident, it was like burning off some karma from somewhere before my initiation ceremony. And then Maharaj touching my head, and the next morning being recovered fully, I felt that was only possible because of him. So anyway, after that was my initiation in New Jersey. And at my initiation, it was really hot that day. It was middle of summer in New Jersey, it's humid. It was probably around 35, 36 degrees. And Maharaj made us fast the whole day till 8 p.m, which was when my initiation ceremony was. So then I'm at the initiation ceremony, he gives me my name. I didn't even know what my name meant. And he didn't explain at the ceremony because there were quite a few devotees. So afterwards, we went upstairs to give the dakshin. And then I asked him, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, what does my name mean?" And he said, "Your name means demigods who are the servants of Krishna." And then he went on to say, "Now you have to stop being an asura." And then he giggled. So then the next day after initiation, we flew to London. And in London, we only stayed here for 3 or 4 days before moving on to Germany. And in Germany, I remember I always had this concept of Germany, being a football fan, you know, when England play Germany, it's not a nice environment. And we've got this image of, you know, Hitler and the Germans in that time. So I asked him in the airport whilst going on the plane, I said, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, why are we going to Germany?" And the way I said it was like I felt quite disgusted to go to Germany. And he just turned around to me and he goes, "Am I the spiritual master or are you the spiritual master? Who are you to ask me why we're going to Germany?" And that was the start of a journey. So then we land in Germany, Frankfurt airport, and some devotees had come to join us. There was one devotee I got initiated with in America, New Jersey, Rasaraj Kṛṣṇa, and Ramananda Rai from Belgium, Ramananda Rai Prabhu, he had come. And in the airport, we were walking through Frankfurt airport, and the Bayern Munich first team walked right in front of us across. And I tried to keep my cool, you know. I saw all these footballers that I was big fans of in the past, Frank Ribery and all these other personalities. But I just kept following Maharaj. But Ramananda Rai Prabhu started taking pictures of the footballers, and he was like, you know, he held up the he held up the process. So then I get to Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, and he turns around, he goes, "Where's Ramananda?" I go, "Oh, the Bayern Munich team, they just walked past." And he was like, "Who's Bayern Munich? Like, what are they?" I was like, "Oh, they're a football team." And he was quite displeased that she said, "Oh, I'm the spiritual master. I'm trying to get him away from this material world. And he's going and chasing after these personalities." And he's very disturbed actually. So we get into the car and he's not speaking in the car. Then we get to the temple where we're staying in it's three or 4 hours away from Frankfurt, so it's quite a long drive. And we arrived late at night. And the facilities are such in that temple that they're very, very poor. I mean, I had to share the same bathroom as Maharaj. Then just utensil-wise for cooking, there wasn't much. So Maharaj decided that he'd make dinner that evening for the devotees, for us. So we freshened up, and Stavraj Prabhu was helping Guru Maharaj with cooking. And he gave me and Ramananda Rai Prabhu the service of cleaning the dining area, which was next door to the kitchen, and just arranging the table, setting the table. So in that room where the dining table was, there was a cabinet. And in that cabinet there were many ornaments. Specifically, there was a blue tray in that cabinet. And Ramananda Rai Prabhu turns around to me and goes, Sura, it's a really nice tray. We could serve Guru Maharaj the prasadam on the tray. And him being a lot more senior to me, and straight away I was like, Prabhu, that is a wonderful idea. So he said, okay, I'll do one thing. I'll hold the cabinet and you just pull the tray out. So I said, okay, fine, sounds good. I went to pull the tray out, and the whole cabinet fell apart and everything smashed onto the floor. And it was a marble floor, or tiled floor, should I say. And the only thing I had in my hand was this blue tray. And I'm just looking down around me, and I hear Maharaj running into the room. And as soon as he sees the situation, he breaks loose. He's like, you're such a liability to my service. How are you even my disciple? You're not qualified to be my disciple. This is me after like 3 or 4 days of being initiated. And he's just really, really going in for 20 minutes or so. And then there was one Prabhupada disciple. I think she still is staying at that center. Her name's Dina Sharan Mataji. So she came running into the room, and she starts going, oh no, these items, no one can replace them. These were all gifts from various devotees, god brothers, god sisters, devotees from around the world, well-wishers. No amount of money can replace these things. Oh no, oh my God. And after hearing that, Maharaj, he turned it up a notch. I was just looking down this whole time, and he goes, when the spiritual master speaks, you should look at the spiritual master. So then I look up, and he goes, who told you to look at me? So then I look back down. Then he goes, I thought I told you to look at me. So I look back up. Then he goes, there's actually nothing about your existence that I appreciate. Get out of the room. So then I left the room. I went back to my room. I didn't have dinner that night. So in my room, I couldn't sleep that night. And I was thinking, actually, Maharaj said I'm a liability to his service. I'm not of any use. So after the Europe tour, what I'll do is I'll just go back home. I have all my tickets booked up until now. So until the Europe section of the travels ends, I'll be here. But after that, I'll go home. I'll leave. I don't want to cause any trouble, So anyway, next morning I wake up, and it so happened I was staying opposite Maharaj's room, and the bathroom was on the right-hand side. So I was coming out, and Maharaj was coming out. And I think he needed to use the bathroom. But he looked at me in his doorway, turned around, and he slammed the door in my face. And I needed to go to the bathroom also at that time. I turned around and I just went back to my room. I didn't even go to the bathroom. And anyway, I was doing my service, many services that I had at that time, mainly like washing clothes, tidying the room, going with him wherever he was going, nighttime massages, things like that. And I remember he was giving an initiation ceremony also in that preaching center. And this whole time I've been serving him, he's not speaking to me. So on the initiation day, I'm handing the beads to him, and he's not looking at me, he's just taking it like this and giving the beads. And this went on for 2 weeks. He didn't speak a single word to me for 2 weeks. So then we had traveled to various places actually. We'd gone to Switzerland from there. We had gone to Belgium. And now we were in Malaga, back in Malaga. And we were staying with Hemagori Mataji, who's a disciple of His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. And it was my birthday on this day. So I woke up in the morning and I was thinking that today, please, by some divine arrangement, please allow my spiritual master to just talk to me. Because it's awkward, you know? We're not talking, I'm serving, and I get quite hot-headed quite quickly. So I was getting frustrated also with the situation. So I wake up, the whole day goes by, and usually I had some business in the kitchen during the day, but it just so happened that on this day I had nothing to do with the kitchen. So it's evening, and Rahul, Hemagori Mataji's son, he comes up to me, says, should we go and get some ice cream? Because there were some devotees that were visiting actually. Shamlal Prabhu, who was a Prabhupada disciple, was there. Krishna Arjun had come from America to join us. Ramananda Rai Prabhu, Stavraj Prabhu, myself, Maharaj, and then Hemagori Mataji's family. So I said to Rahul actually, I was like, it's a bit weird for me to leave the house without going with Maharaj, because I always leave when he goes. But he said, no, Maharaj has told us to go get ice cream. So I said, okay, fine. So I went with him, we went, got ice cream. After about an hour or so, Maharaj calls Rahul and he says, could you come home now? So as soon as we get home, I open the door and you can see the dining table area from the entrance of the villa. So we entered the villa, and on the table there was cake, there was pizza, pasta, lasagna, chips, salad. It was a whole birthday feast. And then I look to my right and Guru Maharaj is standing there in an apron with Hemagori Mataji. And they had been cooking the whole day for my birthday. And as soon as I saw that, I started crying. Like, to such an extent, it was like I couldn't speak. I was like and then Maharaj is looking at me. He says, Sura, why are you crying? Come over here, come over here. So I walked up to Maharaj and he's rubbing my head. He's like, stop crying, don't worry, it's okay. He's rubbing my back. So he gives me a few minutes. I stop, wipe my tears, then I cut the cake, and then he feeds me a piece of the cake. Then he said, you take prasad with the devotees. After you take prasadam, I'd like to speak to you. Please come to my room. So that evening I sat with Shamlal Prabhu and had prasad with him. And Shamlal Prabhu was telling me how much Guru Maharaj loves me, and that he doesn't just do this for anyone. And I turned around to him and I was like, Prabhu, you don't know what I've been through these last few weeks. And then I started explaining everything that had happened. And then I said, I've come to the conclusion that I'm of no use to him and I'm going to go home because it's not working. This relationship's not working. So then he turned around to me, he said, Prabhupada chastised us a lot, but we never left his side. We never left his service. Don't leave your spiritual master's service. Just finish your prasadam and see what he has to say. So I quickly ate, finished my prasad, and I went to Guru Maharaj's room. And Guru Maharaj was sitting there. I paid my obeisances. And then, very cheekily, he said, "So, what did you learn?" And I'd been holding in all these emotions for the past 2 weeks, and it just came out. For about 10 minutes, I was like, "Guru Maharaj, I don't think you like me very much. You said that I was a liability to you and the service, and I don't want to cause anyone any, difficulties. And I've been feeling quite angry at the situation also, so I'm thinking that I should leave and I shouldn't stay, and I'm of no use. Like, you can find someone else so easily. What use am I to you? I'm just a young boy." Like this, I was going on for like 10 minutes. And then he had a little smirk on his face. He said, "Sura, stop." He said, there are so many devotees that would kill to be in this position where you are right now. What I was trying to teach you is to be attentive in your service to the spiritual master. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the situation. And then I was shocked, actually, because I didn't pick up this point, that this is what he was trying to teach me. I was just focusing on the negatives the whole time. Then I paid my obeisances, he gave me a hug, and I left. And then after that, we had gone to Italy. And in Italy, it was the Pandavasena trip. And Sachinandan Maharaj had come. And after many years, I think they had met after many years. So one day they decided to have lunch together. And it so happened that I was serving the lunch prasadam to Guru Maharaj and Sachinandan Maharaj. And when I was serving the prasadam on Sachinandan Maharaj's plate, a little bit of the prasadam missed his plate. It fell off the spoon, the serving spoon. And Guru Maharaj, he just looked up at me like this, and he pointed like that, pointing to say, "Get out." So I walked out the room. I went to my room. After lunch prasad, he called me immediately. He says, "Sura, can you come to my room? I need to speak to you." And he goes, "Sura, I just don't know what's going on with you. I just don't understand what's wrong with you." And I lost it. I said, "Maharaj, I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know what your problem is. I don't understand why you keep having a go at me." And then I said, "Guru Maharaj, where are you going next?" And actually he was doing a retreat in Radhadesh after that. So I said, "I'm going to Radhadesh." I said, "Guru Maharaj, I'm not going. You can go on your own. I'm not even going to pack your bags. I'm frustrated." And I just walked off. And then what had happened was, I think a day or two after that incident, it was time for him to leave. And I remember he had left. I actually didn't go. I was so annoyed. So he left, he went to Radhadesh. And then I was getting texts from devotees in Radhadesh. And they were saying or mentioning that since Guru Maharaj has come here, he hasn't stopped talking about you. I think it's good if you come to Radhadesh. And my response, I was still, like a hot-headed young teenager. I was like, "Well, if he needs me there, you have to arrange a ticket because I don't have any Lakshmi to get there." And that was it. Then within 10-20 minutes, a ticket comes through to my email for that evening. Then I get to Radhadesh on a flight. And then I get a taxi from the airport in Belgium to Radhadesh, and the devotee is standing at the entrance waiting for me to arrive. And as soon as I get there, he said, you know, you should go and see Guru Maharaj straight away. He hasn't stopped speaking about you since you've left. And I was actually feeling a bit guilty that I had left him on his own, because his bags were quite heavy. And anyone that's carried his laptop bag alone knows how heavy that bag is. It's a heavy laptop bag, or it was back then. So I was feeling guilty at the way I had responded. So I went to his room, and he just looked at me. I paid my base, and he looked at me and he said, how does it feel to be without me? And I said, Guru Maharaj, I shouldn't have done that to you. You know, you're getting older now. Your bags are heavy. How could I leave you on your own? And Guru Maharaj's nature was always, you know, he'd be heavy, but straight away he was sweet. Within 2-3 minutes, he'd change back to being sweet again. And he gave me a hug, and he said, it's okay, let's just continue. So I have many pastimes like this of chastisements. But these are the ones that come to my mind right now.
When I was a kid, when I was a child, and I don't have so much memory of this, but my mother showed me many pictures, and seeing these pictures, it helps me to appreciate His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Guru Maharaj to a higher extent than if I didn't see these pictures. And these were showing the real sweetness of Guru Maharaj that I almost forgot about. Obviously, while traveling with His Holiness, I had many different interactions with him, and one of my first interactions was in Mayapur, where he gave me the service of being the MC for his seminar the whole week. And that was, I just came out of the material world into a retreat, and His Holiness just says, you know, can you be the MC? And I'm just a young boy, everyone else is senior, obviously being going to the manor, being going to the temple, there's very many seniors there, all the Jain brahmacharis are also there, all his servants and disciples are there, and I'm just not wearing nicely, you could say ironed even shirt or kurta, and he asks me to be the MC, and I'm quite astonished, and I'm excited that he's asked me, and I'm also feeling very grateful. And taking up this service, I actually get to speak to him a little more, and I have to write down things and write down glorifications, and that was the first service he gave me, and completely unexpected. And at sometimes while he's on the stage, he's asking Raghav come up, and he'd say something to me about the next speaker, and that really touched my heart, actually. And after that point, when we all were leaving the seminar room, one day when we all left the seminar room, I felt so much that I could be attracted to his sweet nature, that when he was coming down the stage, I paid my respectful obeisances to him. And I don't know where it came from. Everyone was standing up, but I just felt like now he's looking at me in a different way, like he's coming and walking. I paid my respects. And then he comes straight up to me before leaving the auditorium, and he says, thank you for your service, and let's keep in touch. And he says, you know, ask your mother for my number, let's stay in contact. And it's overwhelming, this feeling, like it's like a king coming to an ant, where everyone else is in the auditorium, and he just speaks to you alone so much like you're important, like you're feeling you're valued. So that was the first experience when I was 21, when I came back, 20 years old, when I came back to try or re-experience Krishna consciousness. That was one of the most sweetest things that attracted me to His Holiness again. After this moment, my family also showed me various pictures, as I previously mentioned. And I held these memories very close in my heart, and I was reawakened, or I forgot about them. And when I saw these pictures again, all these memories came back of how Guru Maharaj behaved and treated me when I was a small child, going to Buckland Hall or going to retreats. I saw pictures of Guru Maharaj with me playing with a football. I saw Guru Maharaj having me on his lap and holding my hand to cut a cake. I saw Guru Maharaj with a bunch of kids, but his hand was only on my head. Even around these other kids, his hand would reach around them to go on my head. Whenever I saw pictures of His Holiness, he always was smiling, and I was always, I don't remember so much, but I was always feeling very, very happy around him. And then I saw videos, my sister even showed me videos that in Buckland Hall he had all these children around him, and he was teaching them the hinos minyatade he komaram yovanam jala tatade hantara praptir dhirastatnamoyate. And then he got us to recite it and got us to repeat the translation, and for each of us to understand the meaning. I forgot about these memories really, and seeing them again, I remembered all these sweet pastimes that he had, and I found new appreciation for His Holiness. There's a few very sweet pastimes that I can remember. One of the first ones, when he invited me back to D-Land, or when he invited me to serve him in D-Land, it was my birthday 1 week after I arrived, and he had a cake prepared on that day, and everyone was around in the temple room, and he asked me to come from my room and into the temple room, and I, obviously my birthday, I knew there was probably going to be some kind of arrangement, and then I saw a cake, but I didn't see Guru Maharaj. I came there, and there was other devotees there from D-Land, and then Guru Maharaj came in, and my mother said, okay, let him cut the cake, actually. So then I walked towards the cake, and then Guru Maharaj was also quite near, and then he held the knife, and then he said, no, you cut the cake, and then I cut the cake. And he had actually, devotees told me that the same day that he had previously gone that morning shopping to the local market, and he went to the Apple shop and bought me a new $1,000 Apple Mac laptop. And he had that secretary behind him. Just after we cut the cake, he gave me this gift. I didn't realize actually he'd gone to the market. It was packed, it was wrapped, and I said, can I open it now? And it was an Apple Mac laptop, and I understood it was very very expensive, but he actually went in the morning to go shopping, and he's actually done that for me and my sister when we were children. He was coming back from a retreat, and he came actually to our house in London, and the same day my mother asked him to please take rest as he arrived, and he said no. And the same day it was raining, and he said no, let's go shopping. I think it was my sister's birthday at that day, and he took me and my sister both holding our hands to go to the market, and he got various gifts like a shopping till or little game box. I don't remember. But even like this brought back the memory that Guru Maharaj really takes his time, and he goes himself to go shopping, and that was one of the kindest things that I've ever had given to me by Guru Maharaj. And That was very, very sweet. Traveling with him onwards, we went to one house, I remember, and Guru Maharaj was very, very tired. We were in America at that time, and I'll get the name wrong. But we were in one state of California, not in California. We were in one state, and we actually had a big week of seminars and programs planned. And he arrives in this one house, which he will stay for a few days. And they have children. Their children are very energetic. 2-year-old and a 4-year-old girl. And Guru Maharaj comes in, they wash his feet, and they take care of him, they sit him down, they give food and prasad. And he's very tired, he's really tired. And the kids, they have petals in their hands at this point. And they are throwing it as Guru Maharaj walks around the house to go to his room. These two kids are having a basket of petals, red, perfect rose petals, and they're putting it all over the stairs in his bedroom. Now they're in his bedroom at this point, and they're putting petals on his bed, on his pillow, outside his toilet, on his floor. We have some slippers for Guru Maharaj. At that time, Guru Maharaj takes a walk, and he's enjoying walking on these petals. And then he comes to the room, but actually the kids are inside the room, and I'm trying to get them out at that time to try and allow Guru Maharaj to have his personal space to sleep after such a long trip. He's exhausted, and you can see it in his eyes. In his actions, he just wants to take rest. And the kids are laughing and giggling, and they're not really not giggling, but they're actually trying to serve Guru Maharaj in the way they want, in the way they can. And as the girl is carry on putting petals, and she's also now collecting petals, because I told her, now Guru Maharaj needs to go and take rest, so you need to clear his bed. So the girl starts to clear the bed, but the boy brings in a ball, a little like tennis ball, but it's plastic, and he's 2 years old at this point, and he's the sweetest. He's got a big smile on his face all the time. He's very cute. He's completely innocent. And as Guru Maharaj is coming out of the toilet into his room, he's obviously in his room now, and the boy has a ball in his hand, and he throws this ball at Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj immediately catches it. And I'm like, okay, what's gonna happen? Like, Is Guru Maharaj, is he going to take rest? So now I have to take the ball off Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj throws the ball back at the boy, and the boy is chasing after the ball. And I see Guru Maharaj's face, and he has a smile on his face I haven't seen before. So the boy slowly finds the ball again and throws it back to Guru Maharaj. And now Guru Maharaj starts playing with him. And I see on Guru Maharaj's face, there's 2 new dimples on his face. Like when people smile, they have dimples here. And so when Guru Maharaj smiles, he obviously has some, cheeks are here and there's some lines. But there's 2 new fresh dimples that I've never seen, because his smile is so big. There's 2 new fresh dimples on each side of his eyes. And I'm in awe, and I'm just standing at the door. I'm just looking at this game being played by Guru Maharaj and this boy. And then I get my phone out and I take a picture of Guru Maharaj at that time. Without him, I don't know if he noticed. And it's just of Guru Maharaj in not this dark room, but you can just see these amazing new facial expressions of Guru Maharaj, with a big smile, big smile, open mouth, and he's laughing, he's enjoying, even though he's completely exhausted. So this is one of the most sweetest things I've ever seen Guru Maharaj do, and this is how actually Guru Maharaj relates to children. He shows his love to children. He shows his love to devotees at Bhaktivedanta Manor, the children, the youth. He gives his time and attention to the youth. And this is how he actually cultivates from youth to begin spiritual life. They have to have this amazing experience of what spiritual life is, and Guru Maharaj gives that so brilliantly. And he gives it even to those babies, children, 2 years old, 4 years old. He gives such a ripe and loving, caring experience that he just wants them to enjoy and feel pleasure, like he was giving to this child, like as if, father and son relationship. Guru Maharaj is enjoying, and the child is also enjoying. The child is having so much fun, and Guru Maharaj is also reciprocating with him. And this is just one of the most amazing things I've seen Guru Maharaj do. Moving on to a little later, traveling with Guru Maharaj. I'm at Deeland, and I'm in his villa. Is like a property, like you could say, villa is probably a better word. It was like a big mansion, huge mansion. There was no upstairs, and Guru Maharaj has to leave actually in 2 days to go to India for a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks he has to leave for. And he chooses his sets of clothes, and we're ironing all night just to make sure it's ready for him. There's like 9 sets available. He can choose which one he wants, and so he chooses only like 4 or 5. And there's a set of clothes that are very orange, like extremely orange, which is not Guru Maharaj's style. This is like, he likes a color of saffron called sunset orange, which you can buy in Walmart, I think, these days. That's his favorite color. That's what he goes for. And so Guru Maharaj turns to me and he says, we need to get this dyed. Before I'm back, let's get this dyed. You just scratch that. He turned his face to me and he said, we need to get this dyed. And he didn't say a deadline. He just said, we need to get this dyed. And at that time I was thinking, okay, this is a great idea. I'll give it to one of his servants. They can dye it. It's like an instruction. So I give this, Guru Maharaj goes to India, and I give this set of clothes to one of the devotees at Deeland, living at the farm, Deeland farm. And I asked, have you done Guru Maharaj's cloth? Have you dyed it before? He said, yes. Okay, so then he takes it. He said, but I'll teach you this time, because obviously now I'm serving. So then he wants to teach me. And so I'm like, this is a great opportunity to learn a new skill for Guru Maharaj. And so we go to the bathroom, we put the colors in, get the hot water ready, everything's there. Dip the cloth in hot water, we leave it there for some time. We bring it back up, we half squeeze it, and we wrap it up and we fold it. But there's a slight issue. He actually made me do all these things, except for the pouring of the dye. And when it came up and it was it was drying, I was seeing actually it was quite red, like very red, very, very red. Actually just red. I don't know what happened to the dye. And I was thinking, this is not a good idea. So Guru Maharaj still has, maybe 1.5 weeks left to come back. So I start rinsing it back in hot water, like really like getting it back into hot water. Few days I do the same process. I'm just getting it back. And I asked the Prabhu, I asked the devotee, and he says this is fine. But I realized this is not according to how the original sets which we've been dyeing. It's quite a different kind of color. But he said it's okay. But I was thinking, I just got to get it a little bit, the color should be coming out a little bit. So I took initiative and I started putting in hot water, but the color didn't change. Even after 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, continuously dipping it in hot water, really hot water, because that's how you get the dye out, nothing changed. Now it's around 2 days, now it's actually around 1 day before Guru Maharaj comes back, and I have to really think about how to get this cloth. And everyone thinks the cloth is okay. And I'm realizing, no, this is not a good idea. And so I put the cloth in the washing machine, and I put some soap in it, and I just start spinning it, thinking soap is a good idea. And this is inside Guru Maharaj's place where he stays. Perfect washing machine, big, expert, professional washing machine. And I know how it functions. And so it's spinning, and then actually that's the day Guru Maharaj is coming back. So Guru Maharaj actually is returning, and I want the set to be ready for him, but he actually is coming a little earlier, and I didn't get the notice. And I heard the door open at that time, and I was thinking maybe, what's going on. And I realized actually it's Guru Maharaj coming in, and I'm actually ironing another set ready for his couple of days here. And I come and I pay my obeisances, I greet him, and I say, actually, Guru Maharaj, there's a problem with your cloth. There's a problem with your cloth. He says, well, show me. So he instead walks to the secretary's room where I have where we have the ironing board, and we're actually going away from where the cloth is in the washing machine. So then he enters the room of the secretary's room, and I say, Guru Maharaj, actually it's in the washing machine. So he then returns, and then he walks and leads me to the washing machine, and I stopped walking. At that time I was like, it's not, I want to go, but I'll walk a little slower. So Guru Maharaj walks quite fast actually towards the washing machine. He knows where the washing machine is, and I'm just a little afraid of what Guru Maharaj says. I'm just walking a little slower. And as I walk into his room, Guru Maharaj is in the next room where the washing machine is, and he says, Rasaraj, come here. I think at that time I'm probably not initiated. He probably said, Raghav, come here. And so I came, and he said, so what is this? He said, who done this? No words came out of my mouth at that time. And I said, actually, Guru Maharaj, the cloth was, we wanted to dye this cloth. Who said, who told you to dye the cloth? And I didn't say anything. And then I said, actually, the cloth was orange. I was hoping to. He said, who told you to dye? I said, I gave it to Radha Prabhu. So and then he said, Radha Prabhu is now your spiritual master? I just couldn't stop. I couldn't say anything. And his eyes were like fire. They were shaking. His lips were curled. They were shaking. His posture was very, very straight and a good posture, but his facial expressions were like a lion about to pounce on a lamb. Or like an angry mother whose child is now smoking or something. I don't know. That's not happened to me. But the anger really showed, and the shivering and the face really showed. And at that time, I couldn't look at him, so my eyes dropped. And he was on the ball. He was on the game. He was just really chastising me. He said, so now you have a different spiritual master. Who's your spiritual master? No, can't say anything. No, not looking up. He said, no, you do everything whimsically. There's no reason for you to do this service. No one asked you to do this service. What's the point of you to be here? This is not how you serve your spiritual master. He was quite light with me at that time because I hadn't taken initiation, as far as I remember. But at one point he saw that I couldn't look at him. He said, okay, no problem, you go now. So I said, okay, Guru Maharaj, please forgive me. I had my hands folded. I got trained how to take chastisements before I traveled with His Holiness, and they just said tolerate and just, please carry on praying. So I folded my hands. He said, okay, you go. So I went back to the secretary's room and I started ironing again. I started folding and tidying up and whatnot. And maybe 2 minutes later, Guru Maharaj entered the secretary's room. And now I have Srila Prabhupada's japa playing, and he's entering, and I hear his footsteps, but the table where where I'm doing the ironing is facing away from the door. So I'm hearing his footsteps, and I feel like I shouldn't turn around to face him until he comes in, or shall I greet him before he comes in the room? Shall I walk to the door as he's coming in, or shall I just not look at him at all and let him come in the room? So what to do in this situation? So as he comes in the room, I understand, okay, this is a good time to at least turn around and honor his presence. And he says, "What's in the fridge? What's for dinner?" He asks me questions, but he asks me in such a way that nothing just happened. Like there was no chastisement. He was so calm. And I was shaking at that time. I'm still shaking just by remembering this memory. And I to reciprocate or to try and talk to Guru Maharaj, I leveled all my shaking down and I spoke to Guru Maharaj as if I didn't get chastised. So we had almost a completely peaceful situation just after the most intense moment of my life. And then I realized, wow, Guru Maharaj is so, you could say, unexpected. But later that night, actually, it got a little different. His tone changed. Actually, the whole day he was quite upset due to some other event that happened that day. And he said he actually chastised several of the servants who were living in the house with him, who were serving him. The photographer, the cook, the devotees there. And so he's been chastising devotees or us all day. And in the evening we sit for dinner and he asks us after he takes his meal to sit with him. And it's around 7:30 at that time. And we're sitting here and we're just still afraid that he's going to say something. Now we're sitting on the same table as Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj is at the head of the table. And Guru Maharaj just, he says, today I've chastised you all a lot. And we were like, oh my God, now and then he says, please forgive me. He says, please forgive me. I've chastised you too much today. And the devotees, senior devotees, just saying, no, please don't say these things, Guru Maharaj. They're obviously feeling very embarrassed. We're all feeling very embarrassed. It's quite a tense situation. We just finished lunch. It's just silence at that point. And Guru Maharaj is just speaking, please forgive me for being so intense and hard on you all today. I've noticed that I've been intense, he said. And then he said that even Srila Prabhupada's disciples were chastised by Srila Prabhupada to a great extent, and many Srila Prabhupada disciples left because of Srila Prabhupada's chastisements. Many disciples, to quote his words, he said, many disciples, they thought that a pure devotee can't get angry. And due to this misconception, they left the movement, thinking that Srila Prabhupada is not a pure devotee. And then he starts talking about what is a pure devotee. So he says actually, devotees at that time, one devotee at that time thought that because Srila Prabhupada wore glasses or spectacles, Prabhupada can't be a pure devotee. So Guru Maharaj said that's not the definition of a pure devotee. He said the actual definition, see, this is the pastime where I can't believe Guru Maharaj is being so humble and so as if he doesn't have to be, or he's asking us for forgiveness. And he said that actually a pure devotee is not like that. A pure devotee is he who follows completely 100% the instructions of his spiritual master. That's the definition of a pure devotee. So that kind of ends the night that day, and we feel still embarrassed, but we feel great respect, we feel great appreciation for Guru Maharaj's extreme humility, how he, a spiritual master whose job is to chastise his disciples, to come and apologize for his being heavy on his disciples that day. So that was quite an impression he left on us. Later on, maybe four weeks later, I had the opportunity to go with Guru Maharaj to one of the states of America. I'm very bad with the states of America. But he was doing seminars. He was doing Brahmayan seminar in one state. And the devotees, we arranged Guru Maharaj to go by plane and a certain, maybe 5-6 devotees to go in the car. And so this time Guru Maharaj asked me, is it okay that you don't come? What do you think? And I said, I've been always traveling with Guru Maharaj, so I was like, okay, there's so many things I could do. I said, Guru Maharaj, okay, if it's best I stay, I'll stay in D-land for some time. He said, okay. So then I'll see you when we return. So the next morning they were leaving, the flight was going and the car was going also. And then they reached, but when they reached, they told me that one devotee didn't go in the car at that time, so there was a space free. And then Guru Maharaj also found out after his flight that there was one space free. So he called me immediately, and he said, he didn't call me immediately actually. He called me the next morning because they had the day there. They were setting up. They were resting. So the next morning, Mangal Aarti, just at around 3:50 or 4 o'clock latest, I get a call, and this is when I'm waking up to go to Mangal Aarti. And Guru Maharaj gives me a call. He says, actually, Rasaraj, there's one person, or Raghav, there was one person who didn't come to in the car. So actually there was one space free, you could have come. So please forgive me. And Guru Maharaj is apologizing again. Guru Maharaj is like, please, no, please don't worry about this, it's okay. Guru Maharaj said, I know, I feel really bad. I feel really bad that we couldn't arrange for you to come. I'm booking a flight for you now. So I'm on top of the moon. I'm like, I'm gonna see Guru Maharaj, but I'm feeling obviously completely unqualified for this kind of loving service from Guru Maharaj to pay. And the flights in America are not cheap, obviously. And so they arrange the flight, and Guru Maharaj calls me again. He says, before you come to the flight, before you come to meet me, go to my house and collect some cheese and collect my thermos. So okay, we were in the car. We went to Guru Maharaj's base. I found the thermos, and I also opened the fridge and I found some Parmesan cheese, because Guru Maharaj likes to make basil pesto pasta. So when I looked at this cheese, actually it was green. It wasn't yellow. It was greenish. There was dots of green, and I was thinking, this is not the way to serve the spiritual master. I can't take this. So I called Guru Maharaj. I said, Guru Maharaj, the cheese has gone moldy, actually. And at that time, Guru Maharaj said, it's okay. It's okay then. It's okay. And then he was talking to me regarding the philosophy of cheese. Like, cheese goes bad. It's okay. But I took the first sentence, it's okay then, as a statement that Guru Maharaj doesn't need it. Like, as we say in UK, it's okay then. It's okay then. Leave it. Like the then, I heard it then. Or I could probably imagine it then. I misunderstood Guru Maharaj. I didn't reconfirm Guru Maharaj's instruction to me. That was the biggest mistake I made there. We should also always reconfirm what you're going to do after the Guru instructs you, just in case you heard the instruction wrong. And then I thought, why is Guru Maharaj talking about the philosophy of cheese after he said he doesn't want it? So it was like a 30-second conversation, very, very fast. And I was thinking, Guru Maharaj is not going to want this. So my entire consciousness was thinking, he said no. It's okay then. So I was thinking, okay, I left it. And we went to the airport. I was waiting for my flight, and Guru Maharaj calls me again. He says, how are you? Where are you? What's your situation now? I said, I'm waiting for my flight. He asked me a few questions. And then he says, so how much cheese do you have? And I had a brain freeze, didn't know what to think, didn't know what to say, didn't know what Guru Maharaj was meaning, how much cheese I had left. And then he said, Russ, you didn't actually bring it, did you? And I've 10 seconds more of silence. So then actually Guru Maharaj said, what do I do with you? What do I do with you? What is the need of you? You dye my clothes red. You do so many mistakes in my service. If you do one more thing wrong, Rasaraj, I'll send you back to London. And then he cut the call like that. And it was obviously a little bit more. He was chastising and saying, you do everything whimsically. Everything you do is whimsical. and obviously I didn't say anything. And then he got the call. I said, sorry, Guru Maharaj. And he said, what sorry? He said, what sorry? He said like that. And then he said, no, you can't do this. And he said he cut the call at that time. And I was thinking, I never had that kind of communication with Guru Maharaj where he said, I'll send you back to UK. So I called Jagannath Charan Prabhu and I said, does Guru Maharaj often do this to his disciples? And Jagannath Charan Prabhu said, yeah. I was like, what? This is the way. So Jagannath Charan Prabhu relayed a story where Jagannath Charan Prabhu was leaving to his back home, and sorry, it's a little long. And Jagannath Charan Prabhu was leaving, and he asked Guru Maharaj to borrow his Mercedes to go to the airport. Guru Maharaj said yes. And Guru Maharaj, the next day, Jagannath Charan Prabhu took the Mercedes to the airport, and obviously with another devotee. And on that journey of him taking the Mercedes, he got a call from Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj just chastised him so deeply. Who said you can take the Mercedes? Basically, that was Guru Maharaj's chastisement. And Jagannath Charan Prabhu was relaying this to me on the phone just after Guru Maharaj just chastised me. He said, Guru Maharaj chastised me so much for taking the Mercedes, and I didn't understand because the day before he said I could take the Mercedes to go to the airport, and then Guru Maharaj just hung the phone up. And then Jagannath Charan Prabhu said, before I got to the airport, the devotees where Guru Maharaj were, they called me. And they said, Guru Maharaj is laughing at so much right now. Do you know that? So obviously one devotee came to the side and he called Jagannath Charan Prabhu. And they said, Guru Maharaj is just laughing so much. And Jagannath Charan Prabhu realized, actually, this is the last mercy Guru Maharaj wants to give, the last piece of sweet chastisement he wants to give Jagannath Charan Prabhu. So I was just hearing this. I couldn't understand it. I was thinking that this may be something I need to learn in the future. But it's nothing I have to be completely afraid of. I'm not going back to the UK. So I went to America. I went to one of the states in America where I actually got picked up by His Grace Ujjwala Rasananda Prabhu. And I understood now I need to buy cheese. So we went to the market, Joe's, and we bought 2 fresh packets of Parmesan cheese. I was thinking, why do I have to bring cheese from his apartment where actually, there's cheese in here already. But I took two fresh cheese packets. We went to Guru Maharaj's home, or where he was staying with the Grahast family. And at that time it was quite late, maybe 8 in the evening. And I put the cheese and the thermos on the kitchen where Guru Maharaj normally would come out of his room. And we went to bed at that time. I woke up early the next morning and I started chanting. I was staying outside Guru Maharaj's room where he was staying. And I understood that he's seen the cheese because the cheese is not there, the thermos is not there. So I was thinking, okay, Guru Maharaj has what he needed. So Guru Maharaj at around 4:20, he came out of his room and I paid my obeisances. And while I was chanting the pranam mantras, I heard Guru Maharaj saying, "Oh, Rasaraj, you're back." I was chanting, and he said, "I'm so happy with you." I was chanting and chanting. He said, "Not only have you come back," now I had to stop chanting because he's saying something. He said, "Not only have you come back, but you also brought me cheese. So you pleased me so much." And I'm just, and then as I rise from my pranams to Guru Maharaj, I'm on my knees. Guru Maharaj is now 1 meter only in front of me. And he throws his arms around me. And I'm on my knees. So my position is, my head is just touching his belly. And he's just wrapping his arms around my head. And I wrap my arms back around Guru Maharaj. I'm just like, "Please forgive me, Guru Maharaj." And he's just, actually we stay and we're hugging for quite a moment. And he just says, "Thank you, Rasaraj, thank you. And then he says, "I have some service for you, come to my room." And then he gives me transcribing service. So this is another very sweet pastime I remember of Guru Maharaj here also. And just there's one more I wanted to mention. In Ujjain, many devotees have massaged Guru Maharaj. Baninath Prabhu, Vishnu Jan Prabhu, Rasananda Prabhu. There's one devotee from Jagannath Puri, His Grace Agahari Prabhu, very, strong devotee. And they normally massage Guru Maharaj. And one time we're in Guru Maharaj's quarters just before he takes rest. And normally I've been massaging Guru Maharaj for quite a long time in different countries, different states, different places, before Guru Maharaj goes to sleep and before Guru Maharaj after Guru Maharaj takes lunch. So now we're in Ujjain where all these people have had experience with Guru Maharaj. And Agari Prabhu, he goes towards Guru Maharaj's room to massage. And Guru Maharaj comes out and he says, no, I want Rasaraj to come. And all the Ujjain brahmacharis, they look at me and they're like, wow. And I'm like, oh my God. And so he says, Rasaraj, come here. I don't know, it's probably boosted my ego a hell of a lot that day. And Guru Maharaj allowed me to enter the room and massage him. Obviously, I had to reconcile why Guru Maharaj said that at that time, obviously. But this was one of the another very, very sweet pastime that I recollect of Guru Maharaj.
So, a day or two after the birthday incident, I was feeling it was an intense few weeks, and America had really got to me. So I was feeling really frustrated and just tired. And I remember just sitting downstairs in the basement of Hemagori Mataji's house. And I had my hands in my head like this. And Guru Maharaj was calling me maybe for 5-10 minutes. And I just wasn't responding. So he comes downstairs to the basement looking for me. And he comes up to me and he goes, you're feeling frustrated, aren't you? I was like, Guru Maharaj, I'm just tired, It's been a month in America, nearly 2 months in America actually. And it was coming up to like another month. And I'm just new to the service also. So, a month in Europe, I'm just feeling tired. He's like, it's okay. Why don't we play table tennis? So there was a table tennis table in the basement of Hemagori Mataji's house. There was a table tennis table in her basement. So we're playing, and he keeps beating me at table tennis. Like the way that he's hitting the ball is spinning left, is spinning right. I can't catch it. And we go on like this for about 7-8 rounds. And it's maybe like 45 minutes, 50 minutes we're playing table tennis with each other, and I'm sweating. And he's just dry. It's like he's not even working hard to beat me. And like this, he eased the mood, and and he could always relate to how the servant is feeling. Often it was, or how I think of it was, I was there to serve, but actually most of the time he was serving me. And so from Malaga, we then came back to London for a few days before flying off to India. So the day we land, we go to Priti Mataji's house, and he takes a shower and bath. I was actually due to stay at home, so I didn't take a shower or anything. I just washed my hands and my face. And then Shruti Dharma Prabhu was there with Pranabandhu Prabhu, and they sat down to have prasad. And I was just standing, thinking that I'd serve. And Guru Maharaj goes, Sura, don't serve, sit with us, take prasad with us. So then I sit down, and he looks at me and goes, you haven't showered, have you? I was like, Guru Maharaj, I haven't. I've washed my hands and my face, but no, I haven't showered. I was going to go home and shower. And he said, every time you come back from traveling, make sure you shower. And then honor prasadam. So then London, we were here for 2 days, 3 days, very short visit. And then from home, I was going to Heathrow Terminal 5 to meet Guru Maharaj for our flight back to Mumbai. And in the airport, because he he arrives at the airport just in time just so there's enough time just to go through the the check-in security, and then it's time for the flight. So I was there like 2 hours early, 3 hours early, and I checked in my bags. So then Guru Maharaj turns up, and I go to the counter with him to check in his bags. He goes, "Where are your bags?" I go, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, I checked them in because I thought, save time." In the middle of the airport, he starts chastising me. He's like, "Now when we get to Mumbai, I'm going to have to wait for your bags. Don't you think about these things? Can't you use your brain?" It's like, how do I travel with boys like you? How can I train you to serve me properly? I just kept quiet. Anyway, checked in his bags. We get to Mumbai. That flight actually to Mumbai, he was in business, I was in economy. And I often used to go back and forth just to check if he's okay. And on flights, usually he doesn't need much service. He's pretty good, on his own. So I remember going up to him, and he's got his big Bose headphones on, and he's watching Ratatouille on his laptop, the movie. So I thought, okay, let's not disturb him. So we get to Mumbai, and then we stay in Juhu. There's one devotee, Mirabai Mataji. So we're staying at her house, and we arrive afternoon, evening-ish. So in the evening, Guru Maharaj wanted to have some hot milk. So I'm carrying the milk, and Guru Maharaj is next to me, and we're walking towards the lift, because our house is you need to get a lift to get upstairs. So before getting into the lift, there was a small step that is very easy to miss, and I missed the step. So Guru Maharaj is already standing in the lift, and the milk the whole glass goes all over his cloth. And then straight away, his eyes go red, his lips are quivering. And then Mirabai Mataji, she looks at me and she looks at him. She goes, "I need to remove that step. So many devotees have injured themselves and tripped over into the lift." So we get into the lift, and Guru Maharaj, he looks at me. He goes, "You was about to get it." So she saved me that day from another chastisement. Then India, we spent a few months. Actually, that year, Guru Maharaj and me had gone to Mayapur maybe 6 or 7 times just in that year, whilst being in India. For various reasons, he had many meetings. And he had his Vyas Puja that year in Mayapur. So Vyas Puja came, and my service for the Vyas Puja was not only to serve him, but also look after the international devotees that are coming, but specifically the ones that are staying in the Conch building. So the festival's going on, and I had a certain service that I needed to complete, but I could only do it when I wasn't around Guru Maharaj. So I chose to do this service during the time that Guru Maharaj was giving one of his lectures. So I'm doing the service, I finish the service, I come out of the room, and I'm just on the balcony like this, just relaxing, taking a breather. And Maharaj, usually when he comes back to his quarters in Mayapur, he'll go through the Pujari department up onto there's like a terrace, and then he'll walk on the terrace. So whilst he's walking on the terrace, he sees me like this on the balcony. And he knows I haven't attended the class because I'm always there with him, trying to get people out the way. Then he sits and I sit next to him. So he comes walking straight up to me, and his eyes are big, red. His lips are shaky. He goes, "You will go to hell if you don't listen to your spiritual master speak." you don't like listening to your spiritual master speak, you'll go to hell. And he just walked off. Then that evening, this was on the eve of Vyas Puja. So that evening, I was doing the rounds of the building just to make sure devotees were okay. And also just to remind them that if they haven't paid for the accommodation, to just pay. So me and Krishna Arjun are doing this round together, and we come knocking on one devotee's door, who at that time happened to be the point of contact for America for Guru Maharaj, like secretary kind of thing. So we knock on her door and we're like, oh Mataji, please, are you okay? Are you having a good time? If you haven't already, could you please, pay for the accommodation before you leave, whatever. She said to me, she goes, oh, I don't need to pay. Guru Maharaj said he'll cover the cost. So I said, oh, but you're not on the list. There's a list. We had a list. Anyway, we left it at that. We went back to our room. The next day, actually prior to this, before the next day, the actual Vyas Puja day, we were up until 2 a.m. with Guru Maharaj. Just all the brahmacharis, all the servants. And we were just spending time with him, just talking and, about the festival and just various things. And then, so we went to bed. At 4:30 or 5 in the morning, Ganga Narayan Prabhu Bhakti Prem Maharaj, he comes running to our room, knocking on the door. So we were staying in one of the conch building rooms, but it was the room just after, next to Guru Maharaj's quarters, when you turn the corner in that room. So he comes around, he's knocking on the door. He's saying, oh, Guru Maharaj wants to see you, come quick. I'm like, oh, Prabhu or Maharaj, now, we're not dressed, we just woke up, we went to bed so late. He's like, whatever you have on, just wear it. He's like, Mataji's shouting outside of Guru Maharaj's quarters. So we go in, me, Krishna Arjun. Guru Maharaj is sitting on his little couch thing that he gives, Vyasa-san, that he gives class on in the main lobby area. He's sitting there, and then it's Vishnujan Prabhu, Bardinath Prabhu, myself, Krishna Arjun, Bhakti Prem Maharaj is in the line also, Mataji's on the end, and she's shouting and screaming and crying. She's like, Guru Maharaj, how can you send thugs to my room to collect money from me? I don't feel safe here. What kind of boys are you raising? And he just started one by one in a line in Bengali, Hindi and English. And then when he came to me, he's like, Sura, you're just like a monkey. You can't sit still. You're always causing mischief everywhere you go. You can't serve properly. You're a liability. Why do I keep you around? And like this, 20 minutes he's going one by one, one by one. Krishna Arjun Prabhu, at that point in time, he starts crying from the chastisement. Then Mataji on the end, she goes, actually Guru Maharaj, I don't feel safe in the Dham. Then Guru Maharaj turned to her and he goes, if you don't feel safe in the Dham, go back to where you came from. And the room was quiet. And we're just all looking down. And then he repeats it again. He said, did you not hear me? I said, get out. So she got up, she went off, she walked off. Literally 2-3 minutes. She turned the corner and she was walking down, I think, because it takes 2-3 minutes to do that, really. And then we hear Guru Maharaj giggling and shaking his shoulders. And he goes, Mataji's a bit crazy, isn't she? And we're just sitting there. It's like 5:30 in the morning by this point. We haven't showered. We've just wrapped around our dhotis like we're sannyasis, and we got chadars around, sitting on the floor like this, looking down. We're just looking at each other like, what just happened? Then he goes, actually, this afternoon, let's have a pizza feast. Invite her to come to the quarters. You're all brothers and sisters. You shouldn't fight. We should all get along. So this is another example of he'd be angry, but then within a second he'll calm down and everything would be okay. And so that was one incident, Vyaspuja time in Mayapur. Later on, the following year, there was GBC meetings in Mayapur. And often Guru Maharaj would invite his godbrothers on different days for prasadam, just to feast. So on this specific day he had invited Gopal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj, Loknath Maharaj, some other devotees were there. And so we're serving prasadam to everyone. And then after prasadam, he calls me. He says, Sura, can you do one service for me? And usually the custom is when the godbrothers are coming, we greet them downstairs and we bring them up. And then when they're leaving, we escort them back downstairs or to their room. So Guru Maharaj called me. He said, could you take His Holiness Gopal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj back to his room? And he was smirking, like smiling a little bit. And I was like, yeah, sure, Guru Maharaj, I can do that. I mean, Gopal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj, I've never got to spend time with him. Like, yeah, of course. So we're walking, me and Maharaj, Gopal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj. And at that time, the lift in the conch building, you had to pull. There was a gate, and then the doors would open. So I pull the gate, he goes in, I go in, I close the gate, he closed. And Gopal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj is looking at me up and down. And he goes, your spiritual master is very special. Don't mess it up. And I was thinking, like, what's going on here? Like, he's really he's so grave, like really heavy. So then I open the door, we get to the bottom floor, and he's just starting to walk. So I'm chasing after Maharaj. I said, Maharaj, I'll take you back to your room. He goes, no, go back to your spiritual master. So then I go back upstairs. I'm walking around and I see Guru Maharaj is waiting at the door and he's laughing. And then he puts his arm around me and he goes, so how was your experience with Gopal Kṛṣṇa Maharaj? So like this, like they planned, it felt like they planned it, like just to chastise me. So in this way he was joking around with me. Yeah. Then later on that year, 2012, that year Vyaspuja was in South Africa. And we flew to South Africa for his Vyaspuja. And actually the previous year in 2011, when we were in America, in New Vrindavan, we were walking up to Prabhupada's Golden Palace. Maybe around 6 in the morning. The sun was just rising. And Guru Maharaj was talking to us about how it was me, Krishna Arjun Prabhu, Udayananda Prabhu was there, I'm pretty sure, and Sudama Prabhu from California. And he was talking to us on the walk about how he had done so many different services for Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. And how now that all these services are done, that he's ready to go back. That he doesn't want to be around anymore. He just wants to go back. And then after that, we sat actually just on the pathway towards the Golden Palace. We sat on the wall, looking over the fields. And then he starts pointing at the fields and he says, there's so much oil underneath these fields. If the temple could think of a way to extract the oil, then this project would flourish. there's so much oil underneath these fields. And that following year, Vyaspuja in South Africa, in his offering, he actually wrote that I have done all my services, whatever you have told me to do. Please allow me to come back to you now. That was his offering of that year. And like this, throughout the years that I traveled with him for 3.5 years, he would always mention little things of how he's ready to go back, how he wants to leave. So, once we asked Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj in Mayapur actually, we said, Guru Maharaj, how would you like your final ceremony to be done? And he said, just put my body in the Ganga. I don't need a ceremony. So he was very detached from all these things actually. But the final time that I had met him was in August of 2019, on the 29th of August. And he was flying from America back to Ujjain. And he had an 8-hour stopover in London. So he had decided to take lunch at our house and just spend the day with me, really. And after he had taken prasadam, he wanted to take rest. So I escorted him upstairs to the room where he would take rest. And he said, Sura, I need to speak to you about something. And previously I had had a lot of chastisements from him, and he was very grave on many instances, but this specific instance was probably the most serious that I had ever seen him. And he said, please close the door, I need to speak to you. So I sat, and he just looked at me and he said, this is the last time we are going to meet. And I said, Guru Maharaj, what do you mean this is the last time? He said, this is the last time that we will be able to meet. So I said, but Guru Maharaj, I can come and see you wherever you are. Now you're going to India. Why don't I come? I can come with you. He said, it won't be possible to come and see me. This will be the last time that we are meeting. And actually at that time, after I finished my period of traveling with Guru Maharaj, I had started working in finance. And so I asked him, Guru Maharaj, what would you like me to do? And he said, please, ever since I initiated you, ever since we started building our relationship, I've always asked you or requested you to just offer this one life to Prabhupada. Offer this one life to Krishna. Please go back to the ashram. So I said, okay, I can try and do that. And then I asked him again, I said, but Guru Maharaj, is it not possible that I can just come and see you? I can come with you now even. He said, no, it's not possible. So after he had taken rest, he came downstairs. He met the few devotees that were there. And as he was exiting our house, he had told my father in Bengali, Ar dekha hobe na, which means that I will never see you again. I won't see you again. And my father was quite taken aback by this. So we're standing at the door, and he gets into the car. And it felt like for at least 5-10 minutes he was just looking at me and my father and my mother, but more so me and my father for about 10 minutes, just looking at us. And then he left. And then, this was August of 2019, then we were hearing that, Guru Maharaj is going to America during the peak of the pandemic. And then the final week that Guru Maharaj was on this planet in hospital, I had four dreams that week of Guru Maharaj. And specifically, the first day, which was on a Monday of the last week that I had a dream, Guru Maharaj appeared in Mayapur on the chair that he usually gives class in the main room. And I remember just crying in my dream. And I said, Guru Maharaj, the whole world is praying that you come back. The whole world is chanting constantly, praying for your recovery. Please come back. And in the dream, he put his arm around me, and it felt so real, so real, just how he used to give hugs and how he used to show affection. And we walked to one of the side rooms. So as soon as you enter Guru Maharaj's quarters, on the right there's a room, and that's the room that I used to sleep in while serving. And in that room there's a balcony at the back. So we walked to that balcony, and at the bottom of the balcony on the ground there was a kirtan going on. And all of a sudden, this white personality, small boy, appeared, and he held Guru Maharaj's hand. And I remember in the dream I was looking at Guru Maharaj like, do you know this personality? Who is this person? And he said, Sura, I'm okay where I am. And that was the Monday dream, the first day that I had the dream of the final week of Guru Maharaj. Then the second day, on the Tuesday, I had a dream where we were just in the temple room in Mayapur, and Indriyesh Prabhu was there with me also, another servant of Guru Maharaj's. And Guru Maharaj is just chanting japa very loudly, and it's ringing in my ear. Like, it felt as if the chanting was within my ear. So loud, he was just chanting the Maha Mantra. And that was the dream on the Tuesday. Then on the Thursday, I had a dream. And actually prior to the Thursday dream, every night after I had a dream, I would run to my mother and I'd tell her that, look, I had this dream. And I was quite skeptical in my head it had registered to me that he's not coming back, because I remember that conversation I had with him just a few months prior, and then now I'm starting to get these dreams. And my mother, she tried to tell me that no, he's okay, that little boy could be Krishna, could be Balaram, could be Mahaprabhu, he's safe, he's fine. But I just I didn't believe it. And then the Thursday I had a dream, and I was in Ujjain standing on Guru Maharaj's balcony looking over the gardens, and I see that the Mayapur devotees and the Ujjain devotees are all gathered there. And Guru Maharaj's Vapu is coming back to Ujjain, and the devotees are fighting of where to have his samadhi. So the Friday morning, as soon as I woke up, I said to my mother, I said, Mum, within the next day or two, Guru Maharaj is going to leave. Then the Friday night, which was the evening of Guru Purnima, I had a dream where I was feeling very cold that night, and Guru Maharaj, he just appeared and he said, Sura, it's my time to leave, but please just follow the instructions. And that was it. And that morning, the Saturday, I woke up around 3, very early in the morning, 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And I have a picture of Guru Maharaj in my room where he has his hands folded and his danda is here. It's like in the early days in Vrindavan. He's got chandan all over his forehead, he's got garlands. He looks so royal, and he's in deep meditation. And I woke up and I just put my head on that picture as if it was on his lap, and I just started crying loudly. 4 a.m. My mother runs into the room, my father runs into the room. They said, what's wrong, what's wrong? I said, today Guru Maharaj has left. He's left, he's going. Today he's going. And my mother was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I said, let's just log online, because there were some live streams of Ujjain and Mayapur. I said, let's just log on to the Ujjain live stream. And there were already rumors circulating later on that morning around 10, 11, 12ish, that he had already left. But then there was another message that was circulated that no, he hasn't left yet. Literally maybe 2 hours after that, 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m, a message comes from the GBC saying that he had left. And I remember just watching the live stream and Arunaksha Prabhu starts singing the Jayanilodhan prayers, and one by one all the brahmacharis, they come to the temple room. So that was my experience of just that situation. Yeah. I was serving His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Guru Maharaj in Guru Gauranga Prabhu's house for some time. There were some problems, and Guru Maharaj was staying at Guru Gauranga Prabhu's house for some time, and I was serving in that house, and then he was planning to go to Ujjain, and that was. I also had to leave because that was COVID. That was the time of COVID. I was going to London and he was going to Ujjain. And it was quite late that night when he had a flight, and it was quite difficult to serve him those couple of last weeks that he was living there. And when Guru Maharaj leaves, it's normally you can feel like, it's a happy thing. He's saying goodbye and he's smiling. This time it was dark, it was a little bit, and he said, I'll miss you, and it was obviously quite emotional. And so I went to London at that time, and Guru Maharaj went to India, and then we started watching his Uddhav Gita from home, and his lectures every day. He was doing 3 seminars every day, Bengali, English, Hindi. And he would call me time to time and ask, how am I doing? How is everyone? And when am I coming back to D-Land? And actually, at that point, he wasn't in D-Land. He would ask me different questions. At one point, he went back to D-Land.
But before he did go to D-Land, he was asking me how everything is. And we would communicate even on the Uddhav Gita, on the seminars, and we would be doing the quizzes. He'd give us the marks at the end, and he would be happy. And I'd be asking questions, and we'd be reciprocating them. Then he was staying in a jail. And when he was staying in a jail, before the last time I remember Guru Maharaj giving a lecture, he was saying, I can't stay in a jail anymore. How can I stay in a jail when I have devotees in D-Land and they're basically on the battlefield? It's my duty to go and be there with them. As a leader, I must also be there with them. So then Guru Maharaj was preparing to go to D-Land at that time. We also knew it was COVID, it was probably not the best idea. And Guru Maharaj went to a few houses in India, in America. When he arrived in America, he went to a few houses. Even in India, as he was traveling, he was going to a few houses. And then he arrived in D-Land. And at that time, he was still continuing his seminars. We were receiving WhatsApp messages with Guru Maharaj talking about Srila Prabhupada has given us everything. How to Conquer Death class was given also. Glorification of Bhaktivedanta Manor was also there, His Holiness. And we were trying to keep in contact and see what Guru Maharaj was doing still in D-Land. He would call me and he'd say, now this was the point he'd ask, when you come into D-Land, and I'd be like, it's COVID, Guru Maharaj, I'm trying to arrange my tickets, there's nothing available, I can't trust anything online. The situation was like that in Britain, that you had, if you're British, you just stay in Britain. At that time, that's why I had to leave D-Land in the first place. And then I'd said sometimes also, I'm waiting for the leaders, Guru Granth Prabhu, I'm waiting for him to see or to tell me when it's a clear chance to go back. Because I was serving under Guru Granth Prabhu also at that time. And Guru Maharaj said, no, don't wait for Guru Granth Prabhu. You search yourself, you do your tickets, you do your own research. And so that was practically one of the last instructions I received from Guru Maharaj. He would then he'd call again and he'd say, how is everyone? And he'd talk to my mother, talk to my grandmother, talk to my sister, and then he'd say, give me the phone back, and then he'd say, Rasaraj, wow, you're doing preaching at home, everyone's so happy with you. And I'd always feel like hurt because I can't be with him in D-Land, and that's where really I started serving him, and that's where he is, and I felt frustrated at that time quite a lot. And I heard Guru Maharaj also was cooking for the devotees in D-Land, and devotees in D-Land also told us that Guru Maharaj is a little sick here and there. So Guru Maharaj started taking rest in D-Land quite a lot more, and his mood was different actually. He was more relaxed, more friendly to the devotees in D-Land, and I was getting information from devotees there. And even some devotees were confused, and they told me that actually sometimes Guru Maharaj would just sit in his room on a table and just stare outside the window for some time. And I can't imagine Guru Maharaj doing that, because he doesn't waste a second on his laptop and on his phone, sorting out hundreds of projects, calling thousands of people. So I couldn't imagine Guru Maharaj is just looking outside the window for hours. So it was a surprising time for me, and an interesting moment. And then I asked Guru Maharaj, shall I go and live in the manor, because I'm in Saffron at that time. And Guru Maharaj says, you decide. You decide. Basically means it's up to me. And I was thinking, it's a little difficult to be at home. My mother, my sister, my grandmother, one single Saffron Brahmachari. If I have an opportunity, I can come to the manor. He said, I won't tell you, you decide. You decide. So I was thinking, okay, I don't know what that means. I have to figure that one out. That was one of the last things he said also. And so then more notices came up on the WhatsApp, and we were also told by certain devotees that Guru Maharaj is getting sick. We had some posts, some disturbing things. At this point, Guru Maharaj was in the hospital also, and actually the devotees were saying that he may go on a ventilator. And so my family were quite upset by that. We were keeping praying every day. Now this was a time where ISKCON really came together. Every temple were meditating on His Holiness and chanting and kirtan, loads of kirtans. Ujjain was firing up yagyas every day, Nrsimha yagyas. And the community really got, they really held hands with each other to try and support everyone at this time. At this point also, some devotees told me that they were told by Guru Maharaj that the way he wants to leave his body is no one around him. And I was thinking Guru Maharaj is such a loving personality that if anyone asked him to not leave, then he'd be obliged to stay, and he wouldn't actually be able to leave because there would be someone in front of him. Guru Maharaj is known to be a first-class gentleman. Srila Prabhupada even said when Srila Prabhupada was leaving his body at that time in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada told one of his devotees that I won't leave my body in front of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami Maharaj, and the one of other serving disciples, because these three are gentlemen. Srila Prabhupada says I can't leave my body in front of gentlemen. So at that time, Guru Maharaj obviously on the ventilator, and we were praying, and we had messages saying Guru Maharaj may have even passed away. And there was messages where he's not passed away. Either way, we were on Zoom, we were praying, we were doing Zoom calls with the God family. And then in the morning, I was checking my phone a lot those days, and I was up quite late in the morning. And then I received a message, I think very early in the morning, and I went to, I think it was from the GBC. And then I went to my mother's room, and I just turned on the lights. I said, wake up immediately. So then not from the GBC, it was just a message saying Guru Maharaj has left. So everyone woke up, my sister, my grandmother, we were just praying until about 11 o'clock. I'm not sure what the time was. And at that time, in the morning, just after breakfast, around breakfast time, UK time, then we got the message from the GBC saying Guru Maharaj just left his body. And my sister and my mother started crying. And since the messages were coming in still, since the last message before that, there was a mistake saying Guru Maharaj may have not passed away, I was thinking this new message from GBC may also be fake or false. So the first reaction that I had, unlike the others in my family, were complete, neglect or disbelief of the information. And you could say that mood has still pervaded till today. I still disbelieve it. I still feel that message is fake. That Guru Maharaj can come in through the door at any moment. He can call me at any moment. He can he's hearing everything. And so we went to the temple in our house, and we did Jayanilo prayers, and then I started to accept that it may just be a possibility. And I also they asked me to sing. I was like, yeah, I can sing. Guru Maharaj he's still here. And then as soon as I said Jai, I just knocked out. And then my sister started to sing instead. And the days forward, we had a lot of calls with Guru Maharaj's godbrothers like Shiva Maharaj, Radha Maharaj, and on Zoom, and they were all consoling us, and they were teaching us the philosophy, which is what Guru Maharaj wanted to give. One of the last lectures that Guru Maharaj gave was the spiritual master never leaves, or an understanding spiritual master's departure. Interestingly, a few days before he's leaving, or sometime before he's leaving. And so Shiva Maharaj really helped me in that time, and senior godbrothers also helped me in that time, especially Dina Krishna Prabhu. We talked for hours. At that time, I asked His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Manor, now it's difficult to remain at home. So he said, you can go to the manor. So I shifted to the manor. Me and Dina Krishna Prabhu would talk for long, long hours. And he helped me to understand that the Guru always lives. The Guru never goes. And it helped me to understand the philosophy, and helped me to understand that, to accept that partially he's gone from our sight. And so talking to our god brothers and hearing from our god uncles, Srila Prabhupada's dear disciples, was really the best medicine, best sadhu sangha that really gave spiritual nourishment at that time. And it shows that Srila Prabhupada's family is a family. And each Srila Prabhupada disciple said, we're all here for you. And that anyone who wants to talk, email, that they're there for us. So, thank you.